Yeah, I like to wear a lot of color too. It makes me happy, colors.
It actually boosts my self-esteem in the morning to put a bit of color on, and people don't do it enough. They don't realize that they can actually change their personality just by wearing a bit of color.
Fancy. Good. So, oh my god.
So,
Vanessa, right?
yeah, Vanni.
Vanni. Little Vanni.
Little Miss Vanni.
Little Miss Vanni.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yes.
So, yeah, so I guess I'll just do a little introduction. I guess I'll talk to the camera here. So Giovanna and I went to the Bali Eco Deli a few days ago and ran into Little Miss Vanni.
Yeah.
She was sitting at a table with some of her friends and talking about kindness, and it really caught my attention. She was talking about how we aren't taught to be kind as children in school, that we get taught about politeness and stuff like that, but not about kindness. And she's found that kindness has been a really powerful force in her life, and that really struck a chord with me, and I really wanted to talk to her and put something up on Meditation Mag about what she's doing.
Sweet.
Yeah, so nice to meet you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too, man.
All right.
Sweet, yeah. It was a very coincidence that you turned around in that cafe, especially because I was explaining something that I was just literally passionate about, and because it's something new that I'm starting up, and I get really triggered when someone, talks about the people that we are kind of taught to be, or the school system or anything like that, because I know for me I was a completely different person, and I kind of went through a turning point where I asked myself the question, if I met me in the street or in a cafe or anything, would I actually like me? Would I actually be my friend? And I realized that no, I actually wouldn't be. I wouldn't want to be my friends because I was so judgmental. I was coming off the wrong way. I had a negative kind of energy about me. I was kind of one of those people that ended up being like a black hole of energy. I didn't wear colour. I didn't wear pigtails. I was in a really negative state, and I kind of grew into that. So I truly believe that if I had been taught differently, if I had kind of had the time to be able to find out the importance of kindness, the importance of happiness, and the importance of finding what my life's purpose was, I would have been a completely different person when I was younger. I kind of felt like I had gotten to a stage where I was suddenly grown up and I'd missed all the fun. Or I'd suddenly grown up and I missed being a kid. And kids are meant to be, they are creative, they're carefree, they don't judge other people, they just become friends with others, they play, and they create. They're the most creative beings ever, and the most fast learning beings ever. And I just, all of a sudden, I didn't want to be negative anymore. I wanted to get back to that. I wanted to get back to those roots of me, because the me that I had grown into, I didn't like all of a sudden.
What was that like in the negative, that dark space? What did that feel like for you?
Well, it was to the point where I didn't want to be here anymore.
Wow.
And I think a lot of people go through that.
Yeah.
And the fact that you can have so many intense emotions that we're never taught about. We're never taught how to express ourselves. We're never allowed to feel. Because ever since we were younger, our parents were always, no, don't cry, hold it in. And I'm a girl. Imagine what it should be like, what it's like for guys. And girls are kind of allowed to cry, but guys aren't either. And still, you know, being that negative kind of, in that negative headspace, it's really hard to know that you're in it, and think that there's anything different to that, because we always think that's the way we are. If you have a negative outlook, you're just born that way, and the people that are happy and positive, they were just born that way. They're just a positive person. They're just a happy person. I'll never be like that.
Yeah, I had the same feeling when I was younger. I also had like a very sort of dark feeling. I was very depressed. Depressed and anxious. Like, that was my main thing. I had a lot of anxiety and depression.
Yeah.
For me, the path coming out of that was meditation. Like, I never realized that I could, like, sort of step back from the thoughts that were giving me all that anxiety, and like sort of take a higher perspective from the depression, and like realize that everything was okay even if I was feeling depressed, you know what I mean? So for me, that was the meditation that really helped me. But you were talking in the cafe about kindness as sort of your route to coming out of that.
Yeah, I kind of started to figure out ways to make myself happier. And I found that one of the big ways was just from being kind to people. I always thought that I never fitted in, and I always thought that maybe in order to be cool, like the cool kids, you got to act like unkind, and you got to act standoffish. And
Mean Girls thing.
Yeah, that Mean Girls kind of thing,
yeah.
Which is stupid. Like, it doesn't work. But I was never taught how to be kind. I was never taught that kindness will actually help my well-being. So I kind of, just through kind of jumping into things and fates, I came across it's not my original idea, just the idea of doing random acts of kindness. And I tried it out, and I was so nervous because doing something randomly kind for someone else is just not in my system. It wasn't. And
were you still wearing all black and like no pigtails, just still in that dark place when you started that?
I had started to transform myself into a more positive way of life, but then this tipped me over the edge into really embracing it.
So wait, can you tell me a little bit about the journey from where you were sort of in that really dark space until this point where you were starting to do the random acts of kindness?
Yeah, cool. Well, there was a massive journey of me changing into a kind ninja. I had hit rock bottom. I had been on the go a lot. I had a really bad relationship. I just didn't have time to have fun. I hadn't had time to have fun, and I had completely, my whole reality had shattered because I had really decided that I didn't want to be here anymore.
That was after the breakup?
It was during. It was a hard relationship. It was, and I feel that a lot of people go through this and don't talk about it. It was mentally manipulating, and it's amazing how real that is. How real being young and not being able to cope with your emotions is. So I didn't want to get help. I never did get help because I was so stubborn. I always wanted to do things myself. So as soon as I was out of that, I kind of had a clearer view. I had completely... My parents had seen me at my lowest point. I had lost all of my friends. I didn't really have much to live for, other than the fact that I was now away from this person. And from there, it sucks, the fact that I had to completely break down in order to reinvent myself. But I think a lot of the time we do have to have these moments where our reality completely shatters in order for us to rewrite a new reality for us. Our old story literally has to break and shatter in order for us to go, okay, I survived that. Now where should I go? And from that point, I decided to start looking after myself, my mental health, my personal health. I started to get a lot more spiritual because I thought that maybe there was something more. You know, maybe there had to be. I mean, I had to have a sense of hope. So you know, maybe the universe is looking out for me. You know, it's just a sense of hope to get us through the day, really. And it's become the most powerful thing to actually think that there's something else out there that has our back. And from that, I even got into meditation. And really sitting and becoming aware of myself, because I started to not live in my presence of feeling really bad and thinking that this is my only reality. I was able to start to step outside of myself and look at it as just a mutual observer. And meditation really helped me with that, to just kind of look at my thoughts and start to differentiate what I was creating just from my negative thoughts. I was creating a lot of things that weren't there in my head. You know, we think that people are judging us. Only because I was judging myself. You know, I kind of had this thought the other day, and it was from me. It was from me I was really anxious about, so actually, yeah, that's right. I was really self-conscious about myself. And as I was like talking into the camera about how I was self-conscious about myself, someone just walked past that shouldn't be here. Like a stranger was walking through our retreat, and I was like, wait, who the hell are you? Why are you here? And I realized that the only reason why I was triggered to have a go at that person was because I was so self-conscious of myself.
Wow.
And I think people don't really realize that the meaner someone is, or how unkind someone is, if they're judging you in an unkind way, they're judging themselves in an unkind way 100 times worse. Because no one who's happy, no one who's kind, no one who kind of lives in love of life has the time to be angry at anyone, has the time to even have the thought of anger towards anyone, because there's this sort of trust in the universe, this sort of ease, and there's this sort of knowing that we are all just humans trying to figure out how to be a good human in the world. So I think I went off track, and I don't know what the question was.
But that was amazing.
But anyway.
Who cares what the question was? That was awesome. So another, I guess, getting back on track. So you were in this dark place,
yeah.
And then you sort of, after this really bad relationship, you like sort of had that breaking point. Yeah, and I think a lot of people go through that. I definitely had to get to a really dark place to even start caring about spirituality or anything like that. And I think that's a lot of people, how they come into it. You know Ram Dass? Have you heard of Ram Dass? Yeah, I think he was saying something like, it was Maharaji said, suffering brings me closer to God.
Yes.
Ram Dass's teacher, Maharaji.
It's our biggest teacher, like really, and I see it as a great tool to creativity as well, because I consider myself a creative person, and I find that a lot of it, because I do spoken word poetry, and I find a lot of it is influenced when I'm triggered and I have this sort of emotion inside, and it's just about finding the right outlet to express it. And I find that it can be used in work, it can be used in your passions like painting, dancing. Hello! It can be used
for so many creative outlets.
Yes.
I think that's why there's the tortured artist, you know, is a stereotype of tortured artist, is to be that artist you need to be tortured. You need to be
life can't be easy.
Yeah, that's what drives us to express. So when I'm too happy, I don't do any good art at all.
No, and
that's why I have to keep myself tortured a little bit. Always torturing.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of why it's there. Yeah. It's there to kind of create action, because as soon as we feel uncomfortable with ourselves, we change, because because we need that kind of uncomfortability to come into our lives, to go, oh, this isn't working for me, and then you change to do something more positive.
Yeah. So you had this dark moment, this breaking point, that sort of led you into a spiritual realizations.
Awakening, really.
You could call it. And then you started meditating a little bit, right? You started meditating, and you started stepping back from all of this. And that was around the time that you started this kindness initiative?
Yeah. I mean, I didn't start instantly online. It was just a personal thing that I started to do. And I found that doing random acts of kindness for people, it really was able to shift anything that was going on with me, any focus, any self-consciousness, if that's a word, from me. That all dissipated, and I was able to just focus on making someone happy.
Right.
And just from getting that little hint of lighting up someone's face, making someone's day, that in turn made me a happier person. And I was like, I started doing this just because I thought it would be, oh, that's kind, like that's a fun little novelty thing to do. But I didn't realize how much doing something kind for someone was enhancing my own well-being in a positive way. And I was like, why aren't we taught about this?
Yeah.
You know, this should be like in a tool to not feel depressed.
Yeah.
Like in a tool book.
Yeah.
Like to not be sad, to start to feel good about yourself. And I guess in a way that I didn't know if maybe, how do I word this? There still kind of is this kind of concept that can we really do a kind act without having any sort of ego involved or completely being selfless? I think unless you take a bullet for someone and die, no, your ego is always going to be involved. But I think if you're doing a kind act for someone for the greater good of the universe and for the good of yourself, you're still doing something good for someone else, and it's going to positively impact you.
Yeah.
And I think we've got to believe in that. We've got to believe that there's something else positive out there, and we need to put ourselves out there in order to kind of get that back. And yeah, I might be selfish saying that, like I'm doing kind acts in order to feel good, but at the end of the day, I'm doing kind acts for someone else, and I'm seeing them light up.
I think it's a good idea. What you're saying is, like, I think a lot of people feel like they have to do kindness only for others and forget about themselves.
Yeah.
And have sort of a martyr complex to it. But I think it's a really good thing to sort of balance, because giving and receiving at the same time, there's the concept in the chakras, you know, about like you need to have your chakras open for giving and receiving.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So
we can't just give,
right.
and not receive anything back, because that in a way is being disrespectful to yourself.
Yeah, you need to be kind to yourself too.
You do.
Yeah.
You do, because that way you're able to actually give love out.
Okay. So, let's see. Wait, clearing mind. All right, so tell me a little bit about this kindness initiative, what you're doing. You are talking about it in the restaurant a little bit, about the random acts of kindness. Yeah. So what's your MO? What do you go around and do?
Like examples of kind things?
Well, yeah, like you were talking about having cards, and
yeah,
I didn't even see it. Like, here, wait. Oh. It might seem like I know all the answers to these questions I'm asking. I really have no idea. Most of what this is a conversation. It's all new to me. Yeah.
Yeah, sweet. No, seriously, this is our first conversation really about this.
It's true.
Yeah, so, okay. So I made these little cards. They're the Vanni Be Kind cards. So if you want to get in there.
Yeah,
I guess my catchphrase is kind of, can I swear?
Go ahead.
Is just be a good fucking human.
Nice.
Even though this one's the censored one, it says just be a good human.
Yeah, it's cool. Do you flip it around? What's on the other side?
So it's a bit wet. So if you want to read that, it's just kind of says that you've been affected by a kind act by someone, and if you feel inspired, hopefully you will pass on the card and also do a kind act. So
nice.
What I encourage people to do is to go out and do random acts of kindness. Now it can be, I like it when it's anonymous, and what you do a kind act for someone. For example, when I go to a cafe, I usually buy 2 coffees, one for me, and I ask the barista to hold one and to give this coffee that I paid for to someone throughout the day, someone random, whoever the barista chooses. But I asked the barista to please pass on the card with it. And so someone's gonna walk into the cafe and be like, can I please have a coffee? And they'll be like, it's already paid for, here's a coffee. So they will receive a free coffee, and they get this card saying that they've just been touched with an act of kindness, and if they feel inspired, they should share their story or pass it on. And hopefully this card, like, I really trust that these cards will travel far and wide, get into the weirdest places, into the most randomest of hands, through the randomest acts of kindness, and it will cause this ripple effect. And if it doesn't go on, that's fine, because it's caused a ripple effect of positivity in that person's day. Because we don't know how much just a simple act of kindness can really positively affect someone. I mean, if I got a free coffee, I'd be absolutely cheering. I'd probably have a great day. I might be a bit lighter on people. I might then in the future really consider maybe doing something kind for someone, whether it's even just sharing this story to make someone else smile. It could encourage someone to maybe slow down. It could encourage someone who may be going through something really hard at the moment to actually realize that there's a glimpse of hope, and that someone out there, even though they're random, someone out there is caring about them. There is a story actually. Can I share a story?
Of course.
Throughout the day. He went on his way. He ended up coming back later in that day to get another coffee at the cafe, and the barista told him that the free coffee that went to a lady, and when she received the coffee, she broke down in tears because I'm gonna start crying. It's a really good story. Oh my god. I get just really touched when people actually do kind acts. So anyway, the lady who received the coffee that day had just received the really bad news that her grandma had just died. And she received this coffee and literally just broke down in tears, but happy tears, because it literally made her day. The fact that she had just been chosen at random. The universe had chose her at random to receive this little glimpse. And she said to the barista, I know that this is a sign that my grandma is looking down on me. Sorry. Oh my gosh. I just, I think, it's so, like, people don't realize how much kindness really is. It really can help people, because I think when I was at my darkest days, I think if that happened to me, that would have helped me so much, you know? There were so many times I wanted to leave this world, and I think if that had happened to me on one of those days, that would have been one less time I didn't try to leave this world. So that's why I get really emotional about this, because I think it's very important. It's so simple, yet we forget to be kind. We forget the basics of being a human, and the fact that everyone else is just trying to be a human. So why don't we let others be humans, but also acknowledge people? We don't, I think in this world, everyone just wants to be acknowledged and listened to and heard. And we go around just ignoring people because we're so caught in our own anxieties, our own worries, our own importance, that we take our lives way too seriously, that we don't actually take the time to acknowledge people. And I think for me, and I think for a lot of people, when they're going through a hard time, if someone just literally stopped and tried to make them smile, or just asked them, you know, how they are, or if they just took the time to really say, hey, I don't know who you are, but I really appreciate you. And I believe that you have a purpose in this world, and I believe that everything is going to be okay. I think if more people did that, there would be a lot less anger in the world. There would be a lot less hate, and everyone would feel a lot more connected. So yeah, that's why I'm kind of starting this movement. I mean, kindness is just a small part of it. I kind of want I want people to be able to express themselves. I want people to figure out what it means to be a good human, a good fucking human. And I want it to be relatable to our generation. I think like there's a lot of stuff out there written by older people, and it's a lot of wise shit. I mean, they've got great shit to say, but they don't say it like me.
Yeah.
You know, they say it they try to be all hip and everything, but there's no one just talking like what I'm talking like now and having a few swear words in there. There's nothing that makes these massive concepts relatable to us, so we can walk out on the street and have a conversation about this.
Yes.
And I mean, people need to sit down and have better conversations than the surface level shit that we talk about. We need to stop gossiping about people. We need to start loving people. We need to start raising people up. And we need to get this information out there in not such a serious spiritual woo-woo way. We need to just say, nah, this is what it means to be a good fucking human. So start doing it and you're gonna love yourself a lot more. So that's why I'm trying to make it for the millennials, the younger ages, so we can live the rest of our lives in a way where we're confident with ourselves. We're learning who we are. We're learning what our passions are. We're learning to be kind. We're learning how to express ourselves, and we're learning to love people. Not just waiting for that one love where we're going to get married. You know, we should be able to express to our friends, hey, you know, on the random of time, hey, I just want to let you know that I see you, I acknowledge you, and I love you. And then we should be able to say that to strangers, you know, through doing kind acts. That's what I'm saying. Like, we're not necessarily going up to strangers and saying, hey, I love you. Because, yeah, sure, they could maybe get a little bit weirded out by that. But, I mean, if you do a kind act, it's like saying to them, hey, I love you as a human. I love you, and I think you're worthy of a great, positive life. I just want people to be happy, and a lot of the time it's by helping others to be happy. By helping others to be happy, we find a sense of purpose for ourselves.
Yeah.
I think we're all just trying to find our purpose on this world. In this world, we're trying to find our purpose. And I think a lot of it is actually by helping others find their purpose, we find ours.
Yeah. All right. Wow. That's awesome.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry for crying. I didn't expect that. I just get really...
Yeah. And I'm very grateful that we can be here to have this conversation in this beautiful spot in Nusa Lembongan off of the coast of Bali over there.
Look, that tree's in the shape of a love heart.
I know. I know that I saw that when we moved here, and I was like, yes,
it's
yes,
love.
This is perfect.
And I've never really traveled that much. This is my first time in Bali, and actually, a week ago, I was about to cancel. I didn't actually want to come here. I had a bit of an anxiety attack, and I hurt my back. But actually, this was really interesting. During that time, I did not want to come. I had so much anxiety about coming, and I sat myself down and I asked my soul, or whatever, I just asked inside of me, I said, okay, soul, if you're in there, or universe, if you're listening to me, should I go to Bali? And my mind was going, no, I don't want to, but something inside of me went, yes. Like literally like a little kid, like yes. And I was like, what the fuck? I do not want to go to Bali. No, I'm not gonna. Anyway, I waited a day. I still was convinced I wasn't going to go to Bali, but I knew that my soul had said yes, and I was like, fuck you. But then all of a sudden, throughout that day, I hit a point, and it was like sometime in the afternoon, and I suddenly had this bing moment where I was like, I have to go. I actually have to go to Bali. And I think that's really interesting because it took an extra day for my body and my mind to catch up to what my soul was saying. And I think we jump too fast at what our ego or what our worries kind of are telling us, and we back out of things. But I think if we take the time to just listen to that inner voice, if we don't feel it yet, you know, take a step back, take a day, and then it'll become apparent what you have to do. And I knew that I had to be here because I met you, man. And I was able to share my story. So that obviously goes to show that seriously, this is just a massive coincidence. It's literally luck.
Everything in life, we're just running into stuff all the time.
So
it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Well, that's a different story.
Yeah. Wrapping this up now.
I could just chat for hours.
Yeah, we could totally have a conversation for a long time, but little Miss Vanni got to get to her dinner.
I know. I'm on a yoga retreat.
She's got a driver
So
waiting
hippie.
for her over at the Eco Deli. We don't want to keep him waiting too long, but sort of the same goal is like to bring something good to the millennial generation.
Yeah.
Like when you're talking about how like there's old people writing books and like it's not relatable. That's exactly why I started Meditation Mag. So like I feel like you're a perfect person to put on there, and this will be featured right at the top of Meditation Mag for at least a few weeks until somebody else knocks it off the top. Yeah.
That's okay, man. I understand.
Yeah,
I'll be back.
This will be good. So where can people find you if they want to be able to find you online?
Right, so I do have a website, Little Miss Vanni, so that's Little Miss and then VANI.com. I am very active on Instagram, so Little Miss Vanni at Instagram. I do a lot of stories. I'm quite a quirky person. I can't get away from that. And obviously Facebook. I have a Facebook page too. And you can order your Be Kind cards to pass on kind acts, and they're for free. So
nice.
I'll send them to you somehow, but there's a few that I give out for free because I think that kindness should be free. We shouldn't have to pay for kindness. So yeah, Little Miss Vanni.
Good job. Well done. Good job for all your small projects.